this June 17th Hoover City Council member order, and ask clerk to call the roll.
Council President Smith.
Here.
Council President Green.
Here.
Councilmember Lyons. Councilmember Middlebrooks.
Here.
Councilmember Murphy. Councilmember Posey.
Here.
Councilmember Shaw.
Here. I'm going to ask the clerk to provide the invocation. At this time, if we could also remember the Springville firefighters that died today in a training exercise in Anniston. Fire department families, Madam Clerk.
Clap your hands. Dear Heavenly Father, I just thank you for watching over the Springfield firefighters family. I thank you for just comforting them in this time that they need. And I thank you for just watching over also his co-workers and the people that he has also helped throughout his life. I thank you also for just the leaders of the city and the great blessings that you have for the city. I also thank you for giving guidance and wisdom the decisions of the leaders make. In the name of your son, Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen.
Salute and pledge.
All right, we're ready for approval of the May 6th regular meeting minutes and the May 16th work session.
Mr. President, I move for both approval of both minutes without reading.
Second.
God, I was looking forward to this. We have a motion second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed nay. The ayes have it. Next, reports, recognitions, employee recognitions, proclamations. Mayor, what do we have tonight?
Thank you. Good part of this job is getting to recognize the great folks that work with the city of Hoover. And tonight we want to recognize two individuals. First, we're going to recognize our 20-year employee, Scott Hatchett. Scott, come on down. Scott started here in 1999 as a groundskeeper in our park maintenance department and then moved into our laborer's position in 2000, and then he became our courier in the fleet department, and then in 2009 he started taking over. He took over our supply as our stock clerk and just kind of maintains the entire inventory and fleet. Such an important job. One big reason is that if you don't keep the inventory correctly, we don't have the parts that you need to work on our equipment. And also, if you don't order correctly, you have a lot of waste. And so it's very important. This is an incredibly important job in our city. And we've taken on, of course, the responsibility and merged with Pelham, which has expanded that job. And he does just an outstanding job. And the other thing about Scott is you see him everywhere, particularly when we have our events, the SEC tournament, any type of outdoor event. He's leading the charge, just kind of keeping everything in good shape. Such a great attitude, a great employee. We appreciate everything that you do, and thank you so much for your 20 years of service. And then next, we have Miss Terry Smith. Terry, come on down. Terry started here in 1994 and as an intermediate clerk, and was promoted to administrative assistant in 1999, and senior assistant in 2009, and then administrative services supervisor in 2015. She's handled, she's really run the engineering department for a lot of years, and I can confirm that by the engineers that you kind of gotten them over the hump. And just does a great job, interacts with a lot of people that come to get their first impression about Hoover. She would have an opportunity to make that impression, and people that want to do business in our city. And a lot of times things are difficult, the engineering, just that whole concept there. You really got to know what you're doing. And she just does a wonderful job. She's just got a tremendous attitude. I always enjoyed just going by and talking with you. And her most difficult assignment down there, though, has been she's a devout Alabama fan. And she works with 3 Auburn engineers. And it's, but she she keeps it on an even keel all the time, right? She never does brag. She just kind of gloats.
I'm gonna borrow some national championship.
There you go. It's contagious, isn't it? But Carrie, you are a wonderful lady, and we are going to miss you. And she is retiring, and she will leave here, I think, it's end of this month. Is that right? A big loss, and we wish you all the best. Thank you. And wanted to just recognize that we had 2 of our outstanding longtime employees recognized in their field by their peers. Dr. Melinda James Lopez, I don't think she's here tonight. She's on city business, but she was just recognized as a finalist as the 2019 CFO Awards by the Birmingham Business Journal. And then our city engineer Rod Long, City Engineer Rod Long is here, and he was named the 2019 Transportation Engineer of the Year. Great recognition by your peers, so congratulations.
Get your picture made? Can't pass up an opportunity like this. Y'all stand. All right. Next, we have our consent agenda, items 7 through 113, and the second 13. The hydrant for the Birmingham Water Works was going to come off, but Mr. Murphy, who had requested that, is not here tonight. So we're going to put that back in. These are gone over in depth on Thursday evenings. You can either come visit with us at 5 o'clock on the Thursday prior to each Monday meeting, or you can catch up and watch it on YouTube. Those meetings try not to last anywhere near the 3 hours we're accustomed to here. So, with that, I will take a motion.
Mr. President, I move for the approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Next, we have Resolution 60-2019. Mr. Evans. Just do like before.
All right, resolution 6020-19, this resolution declares a deed of under vegetation nuisance due to the overabundance of grass and weeds at 2049 Sweet Drive, Hoover, Alabama, 235 Woodward Road, and directing the abatement of said nuisance for those properties pursuant to our law.
Mr. President, I move for the approval of resolution number 602019.
Second.
Aye. Madam Clerk, does this really require a public hearing? This resolution? On the abatement of weeds?
6019.
Robert?
prayers y'all have for making it today this afternoon.
Anybody here to speak for or against? The public hearing that we're having is now closed. Any comments or questions from the council? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Next, we have Resolution 60-2119, Mr. Evans.
Resolution 6021-19, a resolution authorizing the abatement of a public nuisance and ordering the demolition and removal of said unsafe building or structure located at 1432 Shakes Crest Road, Drive Line, 3026. This is a public hearing.
That is Resolution 60-21. Anybody here to speak for or against 1432 Shakes Crest Road?
Yes, sir. So we.
Come on down and give us, I think your address is obvious.
Well, not currently residing there.
First
No,
name.
Joseph here. Spoke to you gentleman last Thursday. My personal situation has not changed since the other meeting. Like I said, last week, I am working with the mortgage company to try to find a resolution to this. I did reach out to them and express my concern or my suggestion that they come here tonight, so if they have any opinions on that, they can voice those, or at least, give me direction on what their opinion might be. I have not heard anything.
They a local company?
So they're actually based in North Carolina, Mount Pleasant. I don't know if anybody on behalf of both.
Are you looking for them to possibly foreclose at this time, or?
So we have been seeking lead in the foreclosure, we still are, so that was originally denied, actually last Thursday, Wednesday or Thursday. I'm appealing that though, that is when this thing first started, I think you guys reached out to us in February. I was forthcoming with them, the whole process, I said, look, here's what we're dealing with, and that was never a means to deny. So now they're saying, no, we're appealing, they don't pass, we're looking 30 days before we're going to hear anything back. So
Anyone else here to speak for or against? Mr. Wyatt, I know that your department has made the determinations by all legal boundaries that this is a public safety hazard. Really don't know when it's gonna slide off and across the bridge.
That's correct, sir. It is a, definitely a hazard, public nuisance and attractive nuisance to children. And for hazard firefighters, if they were to enter the building, which it is susceptible to be set fire, would be an attractive nuisance. If they were to step out that back door, they'd be a fall about 30 feet.
I think Chief only has about 4 or 5 people signed. It's gonna cost, if I remember right, about $28,000.
48,500 was the lowest proposal.
This is an interesting situation. This is the first time the city will have voted in history. It was mentioned earlier that there was one a number of years ago, but a person came in compliance or took care of himself or whatever. This is really gonna be the first time that the city goes after the demolition of a single-family dwelling, which is very unfortunate. We have to weigh the cost of $28,000, which the city will never get back, because when the house is gone and there's still, the mortgage is owed, the mortgage is gonna be worth more than the dirt, and the city's lien would come after that, so the likelihood would be that would never be regained. So we're looking strictly at the issue of public safety at this point. Anybody have any questions for the homeowner or Mr. White?
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. White, the property surrounding this residence too, is there also a danger that that property could be damaged?
The Garrett's did have a geotechnical engineer and structural engineer. I've talked to the geotechnical engineer. I asked that question, and he responded that there is a possibility that it can start affecting the adjacent property and possibly move toward the right of way. So taking that load off of the soils at this one time should help alleviate that. No guarantee, but it should help, and that help us monitor the situation.
What about Shades Crest Road? Is there any way?
That's the right of way I'm discussing.
That's why we're talking about.
Is there any likelihood that demolition of this property could cause one of the houses on either side to start to come apart as well?
We don't, after discussing with the geotechnical engineer and with the contractor, the demolition contractor, he had a lot of experience. Obviously, there's no guarantee, but we don't envision it at all at this point in time.
Anything from the audience?
Is the house not
You're gonna need to come on down now. Tell us who you are and what street you live on. Oh, come on. You be on YouTube. Are your friends?
Mr. President, before Mr. White
Yes.
leaves, before she gets here, as far as any damage to the adjacent property, the contractor we have, he is licensed, bonded, insured, et cetera.
Yes, sir. He's licensed, bonded. I have personally used him on other properties in other cities, commercial property and residential. And he's well known, been in the business for probably 30 years.
And you know,
Held anything from high rise to houses. So he's
so you know the policy he has in effect would take care of any damage, should any damage be done to the property on either side?
well, before we give him a start, we have to give, if council votes for this to proceed, we have to give 10 days notice, and I'll make sure that our attorneys read the contract thoroughly. But he does say that he'll comply with all EPA, Jefferson County, in case there's any asbestos, he'll do all that. But I'll have our attorney, ask our attorney to make sure that's all taken care of.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I just have a curious question. On Leslie Gallo, I live 704 Savannah Place, and I actually pass this property almost every day walking my dog, and I was curious as to what exactly happened to this property, because I've seen that it almost looks like historically there were issues on Shades Crest Road that people were down. Is another house that looks like it fell into the mountain or whatever, you know, and that property has been for sale for, I've lived here over 10 years, and the lot for sale sign has been up, and I always laugh thinking, who's gonna build on that? And you can see that what's left of the decking, you know, on that property. So what is it on that Shades Crest Road? And is that a piece of property that would be developed again? Or would you say like, no, now just let that be a weedy lot because the next thing is gonna potentially, if it's not reparable, is that what I'm understanding? Or is there just not the money to repair it?
Well, I would,
The Garrett's engineer actually said to stabilize it in its current state would cost more than the house's value.
Still at the current house.
Yes, the current house, to try to go behind there and stabilize the land and correct that. It is possible, but it costs more than what the value of the house is.
So your question is just asking, could you rebuild on that lot?
Yes, sure, you could rebuild, you'd have to have the proper, we'd demand a geotechnical engineer, structural engineer design, caissons, go down the rock, stabilize, sure.
some of those even have poured concrete.
It just seems wasteful for me, for the city of Hoover to have to pay to take that down. And
Yeah.
it almost seems like a contractor issue to begin with to ever have put that there.
Well, the house that's in there prior, this particular owner did not build that house.
Oh, no, yeah, never. I
He
mean,
had
whoever was the.
inspector inspected it, mortgage company put up the loan on it. And he's between a rock and a hard place. Now, unfortunately, you know, if we could sit here and do nothing, we might put it off 2 weeks, I don't know, but we waited very long at all. Someone's child goes in there playing, and all of a sudden it slides off the side of that mountain, and children die. That's a lot more grievous than 28,000.
Yeah, it was only some yellow tape up for about 2 weeks, and it seemed to come down, and there's nothing here that the states, you know, not cross this line, hardly nothing.
I had a couple questions. Mr.
Garrett, you had, an engineer inspect the property before you bought it, right?
Yes, sir.
We were just talking about that.
When the wife and I moved in, we closed December 2017, but prior to that, it being on original line, one of the main things I was concerned about was the structural soundness of the house. So the house had been sold previously 2 years prior to that. There was a home inspection and a structural engineer report. I wanted to double up and make sure it's got a new home inspection and a new structural engineer come out, give the blessing. There's no indication in that report that we were at risk. And it was for a year, nothing changed. It was fine. In the course of, I think January 5th, when I walked outside and saw it, it went from an 8-inch crack to about a 30-foot crack in the course of about 2 months. So as far as land goes, pretty quickly.
And Mr. President, I'll just say the tragedy here is that no vote we can take tonight will bring the house back, and that's a tragedy, regardless of what we do tonight. My question based on that is, you had structural engineers review it before, and Mr. White, we're having structural engineers review this. What liability are we taking on by doing this? I mean, right now, everybody's kind of stepping back, the bank is, the inspector, everybody is, and one of the issues is that it's going to be a $30,000 gift to somebody. It won't be y'all, unfortunately, but it'll be the bank or somebody is going to benefit from this, just the way the system works. But if we do this, how are we taking on, let's say we do this and 3 years later that continues to erode and it does affect the houses, are we committing to liability here? Mr. Evans, is there, what are our exposures here by taking this on ourselves, aside from the issue of public safety?
Well, aside from, unfortunately, you have to start there because you deal with it at the time, something for more additional erosion to take place. The statute that allows this, which is 1153-1 and so forth, gives the building official the authority to go out and view that property, review that area, and determine further action needs to take place. And the liability, the scope of what that cost would be brought before you, and the council will decide at that time. If you're talking about potential further damages or further risks for the city for that property, when you think about these, as long as the notice provisions are taken, like notice was given proper to the owner as well as to the mortgage company, as well as to the tax assessor, so that they knew what was going on with the property and had an opportunity to come before the council. The case law, when you look at it, there are very few, if any, cases that indicate liability towards the city after the fact.
We're not taking on maintenance and
You're not taking
conventional
on
sense.
maintenance. You have your weeds, of course, if there was, if it were not maintained, of course.
That'd be just a typical abatement. Okay, thank you very much.
Anyone else have a
Mr.
question?
President, I have some questions. Walk me through the timeline. When did the conversation start with the city? Paul?
So January 5th was when we first noticed the crack, and at that point, we didn't know the extent of the damage. That episode was still relatively small compared to what it
Good.
is today.
Speaking the microphone a bit better so the recording can get you.
So we began looking at geotechnical engineers, structural engineers, seeing what they could do. We did have the same geotechnical engineer suggested basically pouring down to the basement, basically trying to backfill that whole lower part of the structure with concrete to see if we could settle it. Had the contractor out, back quotes, asking how long does this last? Does this fix the problem? Does it fix the erosion? How long do you guarantee your work is responsible? It's no longer than I'm on this job site for. 2 weeks later, it progressed even faster, and the same geotechnical engineer had to back out for a second opinion or a second look. He said there's nothing you can do at this point. So to Jim's point, we could try to stabilize the structure, we could try to stabilize the building. Describe basically having to flag put in, drill at various points on the original, find competent rock, and just build up in segments, which could easily be the whole house was value adds. At that point, the timeline, I believe, is we're looking at probably late January, early February at this point, we realize that this thing's beyond waiting. And I believe February 1st was the first order that I received.
And to clarify, this is closer to Berry Road than it is the Ross Bridge, what I would call the Ross Bridge side of the Chase Stretch, closer to Homewood.
Yes, so Berry Road is the road that runs below us, and there is a resident down there. It's the slope is very steep at the base of the structure, but it kind of evens out further down as you go.
Mr. White, I'm gonna ask you a question. The act that we're taking today, you know, and Mr. Garrett was saying he was having an issue with, you know, the mortgage company, everybody kind of accepting that the end that we all see. With the action we take today, is there anything that helps them, helps the mortgage company say, okay, well, the city condemned it, the city tore it down, to get them resolution?
As far as financial or as far?
The financial part, yes. We're taking it, and then is that what the city's doing, show them that another entity has come in and taken care of this issue, and there is a problem that they need to reconcile?
Well, it does. Unfortunately, this is common practice when you condemn property, is that your mortgage companies are typically non-responsive. After 42 years of doing this, that's typical.
Okay, and with just one final thing. Since this was happening so far back, is there a process with one of the committees within our group to get together and talk about something like that, so we kind of know this is coming down the line?
Right. There is a required notice process that 45 days by the state, but in the future, I will keep everybody apprised of anything like this facing the city.
I appreciate that, and the main reason is, that I'm thinking about this weekend, we're trying to explain this to some citizens that have seen it and asked about it. It was a little difficult to explain out of what we saw today from Rod, the length of time this has been going on, the history of it. It was more like, well, this just appeared, you know, a citizen on here and we're spending $42,000 on something we heard on Thursday, not the long scope that you guys have gone through this process.
I don't know if there's an appropriate committee to do that to, or to send it on to council.
I think either way, what do you think, Mr. President?
I think we can, I think if, as long as he notifies leadership, it will be a I'll probably have him, you know, with our attorneys.
That's the first thing I do is get the facts and share with the attorneys, and they help me read the letter. My letter becomes Shakespearean and everything.
Is there any value, this may be the first part of the question, sorry. Is there any value in your office or legal staff to send letters to people, two houses on each side, to recommend the possibility they get a home inspection?
I would like to defer to our legal person on that.
No, we're not telling them we're gonna do it, we're not telling them we're gonna pay for it, it's just let them know that this is occurring, and we don't think they have a problem, but they, it'd be wise for them to find out before it was forced upon them, if something were to occur.
Well, if you work, this grant just, just could have
Speak up a little bit, please.
if you work grant this, you could have the contractor to let them know the work is taking place, and that conversation will go through there. As far as the city person, there are grants that the city should invest in.
So, they see that house going, yes, some questions. All right, any other questions?
Mr. President, I just have a
Yes,
quick
sir.
comment. To me, in this particular case, public safety is paramount here. As you mentioned, $30,000, if someone goes into that structure, gets hurt or killed, that'd be a heck of a loss for $30,000, considering. As Mr. White alluded to, it's pretty common practice in other municipalities this to occur. I do think it would be prudent on us to look into a steep slope ordinance for future development along that slope. Can't do anything about houses that are there now, but future development along the slope could benefit from such ordinance. Thank you.
Anybody have anything else? Yes, sir, come on down, give us your name and street. We used to ask for your house number until protesters started, so we're not going that far now. Name and street number, street name.
My name is Paul Braswell. I live at 1308 Gables Drive, Hoover, Alabama. I just have one question about that house. I really don't know anything about it. It's just I've had personal experience with the house. It was the house I grew up in. It was sold to Vulcan Materials, and they didn't want the house. They just wanted the land. So So, the house was used there. I'm sure you're more familiar with the fire department than probably everybody in this room. I'm just wondering, they used that house as a training ground. Lena, Pelham, who may have been there that day. I was there that day. I don't know who all showed up. But maybe instead of spending the $28,000 to do the demolition, what about the idea of using the house as a training ground for the fire department, maybe even multiple fire departments around?
But the chief has already gone on record that he wouldn't put anybody on inside that house if it were to catch fire
I
tonight.
understand. I wouldn't either, but, just thought it would
But if
be.
you got another one comes available, Chief Bentley, sure glad to talk to you.
Yeah, that's not my house. Just thought it was.
Oh, I thought maybe he's volunteer.
Well, I tell you what, I will volunteer if you need somebody to help.
Thank you. All right. Anything else for the public hearing? Public hearing is now closed, and Mr. Evans, resolution 60-2119.
A resolution authorizing the abatement of a public nuisance and ordering the demolition and removal of said unsafe building and structure located at 1432 Chase Crest Road, and Battle Street,
Mr. President, I move for the approval of resolution number 6021-19.
Second.
Motion is second. Once again, any comments or questions from the council or the audience? Seeing, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Item 16 is 60-22-19, Mr. Evans.
Resolution amending the budget for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2019.
Mr. President, I move for the approval of resolution number 6022-19.
Second.
A motion is second. This creates the funding, the movement of funds to create the funding for the work needed in the demolition of that said property. Dr. Lopez isn't here tonight. Is there anybody else here to speak on her behalf? I'm just wondering where are these funds being appropriated from?
There is general funds, from the general fund, and that's the sole item on the budget. Yes, sir.
So, how much money is left in the general fund?
I don't have that balance, sir. I think it's just north of $3 million.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Any questions for Mr. Rice on the budget amendments?
Please, nothing that involves math.
Sorry,
I said, please, nothing that involves math.
Matt? So if you were to take a fire truck coming from Anniston at 50 miles an hour, have one coming from Tuscaloosa at 40 miles an hour,
Monty Python.
where would they meet? Lakeville?
Yeah, sounds like Monty Python.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Next is resolution 600619, Mr. Evans.
Resolution number 6006-19 is a resolution granting conditional use approval of 4273 and 4289 South Chase Crest Road for the shopping center, subject to the property being annexed into the city limits.
For a motion.
Mr. President, I move for approval of conditional use.
Second.
Just get Jesus out of something. This is the shopping center that would be down at South Shades Crest and County Road 52 has one large tenant and a number of smaller parcel tenants. First, the public hearing. Anybody have anything to say for or against? This is for conditional use only. All right, close the public hearing. Looking for a motion. We have a motion. Once again, any questions from the council?
President, once again, I'll just make a quick comment here. If approved, I think the shopping center is going to be, eventually going to be great for the area. I know that a grocery store in the area would benefit the area. Unfortunately, as I've stated before, I don't feel like we have the infrastructure there currently to support such a shopping center. I understand the developer may be willing to take on some improvements to that intersection, but until the 52 and South Shades Crest Road get improved, support that, and unfortunately, I'm going to remain an A on it.
Mr. Yielding here tonight? Strange, you don't look like Mr. Yielding.
I'm an engineer for this project. I was just trying to.
Mr. Yielding here tonight? Do you know whether or not the county has come to any agreement on additional infrastructure? Mr. Yielding talked to me and said they had conversation with the county commission. Richard Yielding lives on top of this project or? That's one on the other side. Got code names for all kinds of stuff. All right, Mr. Whitson. Mr. Whitson.
No, I'm working.
Working for Mr. Whitson. Same question. Do you know whether or not you've heard of any commitments from the county commission for any additional infrastructure?
We are working with the county to develop plans to install roadway improvements and coordination with their project.
All right, well, there are other opportunities when it comes before us down the road. Any other questions for Mr. Whitson?
One more, Mr. President, and I do, if I recall, that you are working with their timeline to bring this project online. You're working with the timeline to widen Warner Road, and then also any improvements you would do at that intersection. You're coordinating.
Yes, we've had multiple meetings with the county transportation engineers, and we're working our infrastructure improvements with theirs because it's in similar spots. So, and they're going to work with us.
Very good, thank you.
Any other questions? Matt? Okay.
Kyle Johnson, 3603 Erica Way in Birmingham, Alabama. 35243.
Close. Everyone have? Any other questions? All right, this is for the conditional use. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed nay.
Nay.
Aye. 3-2. We have Mr. Green and Dr. Middlebrooks. Item 18, ordinance 192434. Mr. Evans.
This is an ordinance rezoning 3421 Old Columbiana Road from Hoover CP Preferred Commercial Office District to Hoover C1 Neighborhood Shopping District.
Once again, another public hearing. Our new clerk loves public hearings. Anybody here to speak for or against? This is back behind, Old Columbiana, behind Schaefer Eye Center. Yes, sir?
We're here if you need us.
Oh, I'm sure we'll need you.
All right.
Work your way down.
No more cat jokes.
No more cat jokes? God, I
So
had a
many.
few. I had a few. I had previously referred to this as Hoover's first legal cat house. There you go.
Yeah, that's right, that's perfect.
But I can't do any more with that. This is a public hearing. You want to tell us just very shortly? We learned all about things at the previous work session, but just for the public that's here, the 60,000 watching on YouTube. Sure. Speaking to the microphone, give us your name and address.
Zach Lavoy, 3432
I see it's 3431 on the paper, but it's 3432 Old Columbiana Road. I'm the owner of the property. I'm selling it, hopefully to Kitty Cat Haven, and there are who are requesting the conditional use.
They're regretting the condition?
Yeah, they might. And of course, I'm requesting to move to C1 so we can get that variance.
Yes, sir. All right, so it's 3431?
3432.
3432, okay, so everything's right in our paperwork and the
And
resolution.
one thing you guys are waiting on from me, or I think now I'm waiting on legal, is you asked for a cross-parking agreement between me and myself, which I did. The attorneys had fun doing that. But then we sent it to you guys for approval before I recorded, and we're waiting on legal for that. That's.
They'll get it back to you.
Sure.
Right after they get paid next.
Yeah, there you go. And then Rita's representing Kitty Cat Haven.
Go ahead. Give us your name and address.
I'm Rita Bowman, and I am the director of Kitty Cat Haven and Rescue. My address is actually in Helena, but we are looking to, of course, acquire this property so that we can have a much larger facility than what we currently have now. We are a no-kill, a no-cage facility for cats. It is a cat rescue. You can call it what you like, cat house, cat rescue, but it is a cat rescue. And since October of 2016, we have actually adopted out over 1,500 now cats and kittens. That's quite a few off the streets there, quite a few that have not been euthanized due to overpopulation. So anyway, that's what we're looking for, is trying to get a bigger, better facility, and this is the opportunity that's good for us.
Are you aware of a group called 2x2?
Yes, I am.
Work together as far as felines that they may have?
We do, actually, too, and we also help as far as any donations that we get, for example, dog food or anything that pertains to dogs, we always donate to 2x2, and 2x2, same way, they get donations like this for cats, they donate to us. So yes, we work basically hand in hand.
I think we've adopted 2 or 3 dogs.
So now you have to do 2 or 3 cats.
I will get one for Mr. Posey. Anybody else care to speak during this public hearing, for or against? Any questions from the council? No? Thank you. Doing good so far. All right, we're going to close the public hearing.
Mr. President, I move to adopt ordinance number 19-2434.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. This is an ordinance, correct? Please call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Dr. Willis?
Aye.
Mr. Posey?
Aye.
Mr. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye. Unanimous. Congratulations. Now, can you get past the next one? Resolution number 600719. Anybody care to speak? Is there anything, this is for a conditional use approval for the same site. Mr. Evans, why don't you go ahead and do your part? We'll multitask.
Resolution 607-19 is a resolution granting conditional use approval to permit the operation of the indoor facility for cats 3432 Old Columbiana Road.
Anybody wish to speak to the conditional use? Public hearing's closed.
Mr. President, I move to approve resolution number 6007-19.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any questions? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Did I hear?
Free cats for everybody.
I think that was Mr. Anderson. Ah! Oh. Item 21, ordinance 19-2434, Mr. Evans.
Ordinance 19-2434
public hearing. Is there anybody here that would like to speak? I think probably what we need to do, just so people know what we're doing here. Is Mac here? He's off on vacation. He's off. Going. Well, we can let Mr. Johnson earn his pay to everything. Just a quick synopsis. Doesn't have to be anything full. You don't have a half hour. You don't need that 3-hour one that was referred to earlier. Just real quick, what do we do?
Richard Johnson, 3545 Market Street, represented by Agreement Partners. We are transferring 155 units to North annexing, rezoning and annexing, requesting annexation of 24 acres.
Okay, now this is free zone.
Yes, sir.
Annexation. Movement up to 155 units.
Yes.
One foot to another.
Yes, sir.
And those units are going to come with $3,000 per front.
That is correct, yes, sir.
Plus an ice cream sundae for all the new ones.
Yes, sir. Road.
Now,
Or cap.
okay, a cat, yes. Anybody care to speak to this, public hearing? Yes, sir, come on down. Good, when you get here, please give us your name and your street. I'm Alan Terry, address is 636 Trace Crossings Trail. And I kind of have a question first. How does this issue relate to the next one that's listed on the, because I only received a notification that it sounds like it was on the next station, number 15. Well, we would have to talk to the clerk about that. Second Amendment, and the next one has to do with Trace Crossings PUD, where this other one's is Black Ridge PUD.
First one is the ordinance number 5435 is the Black Ridge Road, and then the ordinance number 5436 is the Trace Crossings.
And you can identify the public notice was sent on each item.
President, would there be a difference in coverage since you might live closer to one and not close to the other? That's what happened.
Within 500 feet, so everybody within 500 feet, according to the tax assessor, is notified for Black Ridge, and then 500 feet from Trace Crossings.
Answer your question, sir.
Well, I think you may be more than 500 feet.
Mr. President, I think you're asking how they're related, and that would be the transfer of units.
Yes, my understanding is that you transfer the units from Black Ridge to an area that is very close to the high school. And I live just on the other side of the high school, so I don't know whether I'm in 500 feet or not of the property. Does that disallow me from? Oh, okay. Okay. First off, I'd like to thank the mayor and the council members for letting us comment on this proposal. First comment is that I don't see any explanation on the material I received from the developers as to why they want to make this change. But I can venture some guesses about it. The developers have found that they can build and sell the more modest homes, similar to what's in Lake Wilburn, far faster than they can sell the more expensive homes in Black Ridge. Two, they know that the current strong economy can't last forever. They would like to strike while the market is hot. Third, they know that as these houses get occupied, the ones they're working on now, get occupied, more and more prospective buyers will realize just how bad the traffic is becoming. Four, they know that as the traffic problems and more citizens complain, it will be harder to get approvals for such things from the city. And they're right to worry. Traffic jams and other issues caused by this largely uncontrolled development are substantial. Traffic backup at Highway 150 will become intolerable. but specifically on this site that they're proposing to build on near the high school, will generate more houses that will create traffic problems for the high school, for the middle school, and for the Trace Crossings Elementary. I cannot imagine that the city school system is going to be real happy to add additional traffic on Buccaneer Drive, where you've got 16 and 17-year-old drivers, and you've got walkers going over to the baseball fields, etc. In addition, what about the impact all these families are going to create? I'm sure that, you know, whether they're built in Black Ridge or here along the river, you're going to have this effect. But you already know that there are a lot of families going to be moving into all these new houses. It's going to have a substantial impact not only on traffic but also the school system. You've got the largest high school in the state, and this is just going to put that much more pressure on having to build a new high school. So basically what I'm saying is that if you allow these houses to be built near the high school, you're creating a worse situation than would exist if the houses were built in Black Ridge. I appreciate that you gentlemen now recognize the problems that have developed as a consequence of decisions that were made 20 or 30 years ago. Of course, some of the decisions affecting traffic in the area were made more recently. And that it's kind of like the amateur painter who paints himself in a corner. Hoover has got itself painted into a corner on this situation. And I feel like it would be beneficial to find a way to slow the pace of this development in this area. Give the city time to find a new way to move traffic over to I-459. And the only way that this council has to control the pace of this growth is through decisions such as this one. And this proposal creates greater problems. So I suggest that you consider to vote no on this requested amendment. I also suggest that you encourage the developers to help you work out a plan to build a new access road over to the interstate. Thank you. You had mentioned us. Is there other people here that would like to raise their hand if they're with you? Are you going to come down, sir? Yes, sir. Come on down. Give us your name and street number, please.
My name is Keith Marks, 4061 South Shakes Crest Road. I got this letter in the mail, which is very difficult to read as far as what's going on. I guess I'm supposed to be here because I'm within 500 feet of the Riverwoods portion of this thing on South Shakes Crest. And I didn't know if there's any Riverwoods people that are here.
We've already handled the shopping center.
No, this is the shopping center.
Okay, so this is.
This is a it says here it's a maximum of 6 to access South Shades Crest Road, which I believe is going to come out right next door to them. I just want to make sure that Riverwoods and all that's going to only be 6 homes in this location and not a road cut through back to Black Ridge.
Mr. Johnson, would you care to speak to this? And perhaps previously.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Start with Mr. Carey's comments. Start with Mr. Carey's comments. I apologize, in my very abbreviated presentation, I didn't give you all the information. I kept it real short. It's succinct. Property that in Black Ridge that we're moving the units from is a medium density area. In working with the city on the long-range comprehensive plan, we elected to donate that property to the city in excess of 150 acres. And as a result of that donation, that was the catalyst for moving the
155 units to Fleming Farms, who are now marketed as Green Trail. There are no additional units. All the units contained in both PUDs have been established really since the Western Pocahontas annexation in '93. We reduced the overall count, as you know, personally, by about 2,300 units at that time.
Do you remember when the Zeller property was annexed?
1993.
Well,
Yes, it went from Western Pocahontas to Riverwood. During the time that we presented the planning and zoning until today, that Riverwoods property has sold. We have the consent forms in our amended PUD document, which Mr. Corley has reviewed. And we are joint owners with Parish Doyle now. So the Riverwoods property to the south is all ours. No new units. Additionally, the traffic was programmed into Mr. Skipper's report that we presented both with Black Ridge and more particularly with the 11th Amendment, the trace crossing of PUD. All this traffic was accounted for. In addition to that, traffic that was added by the future recreational construction on that side.
with the, what's the lot width of these 155 units going to be at the new site?
R1, new site,
Yes, at the new site.
they'll comply with the current regulations, Article 12, nothing less than 60 feet.
Okay, so chances of someone having a big family are going to be not nearly as likely as somebody living back in Black Ridge, back in those areas back in there. So it's possible that you're alleviating some student numbers from the school system. Who has already planned out for these new dwellings for a number of years, correct?
Yes, sir. In fact, we've worked with Dr. Murphy all the way through the process, kept her informed. And she participated, as you remember, in the 11th Amendment and the original Black Ridge Planned Unit Development zoning application.
And the 150 acres does not include the 70 acres for the mountain bike?
No, sir. There's, and I'm gonna mix here a little bit. There's overall donation in Black Ridge is at a little in excess of 150 acres. To be given that the city has for city use. That's irrespective of the park property that we're proposing to donate both the mountain bike park and parkland to Hopkins. Mountain bike park, we submitted the deeds to Philip today, Mr. Corley today. It's approximately 71 acres. It's the phase one of our total park donation. We have two phases of park on the Cahaba that are also pre-programmed. The substantial difference in those two donations are that they are now improved. So there'll be no cost to the city to establish the parks, passive park usage.
How many acres in total do you believe that there will be from the Met all the way to 52? How many acres of property do you anticipate that you will be giving to the city for various reasons?
In excess of 450. That's in addition, that includes the property we've already given for the sports park. There's approximately 300 acres that go with the trace crossing amendment, 11th and 15th, and the additional 150.
Very good. That help at all with answering your questions?
Well, specifically on the letter that I got, I'm looking at the second to last bullet points that talks about 12 estate lots in the Riverwoods portion of this project. 6 of which was accessing South Sage Crest Road, and the other 6 that are going to access County Road 93. So what I'm trying to find out from somebody at Riverwoods, just to make sure there's not going to be a road that's just a little cul-de-sac that's coming off South Shades Crest and not an exit to the neighborhood in the back that they're the monster that's being built.
In response to
those estate lots, those will be through streets?
no, in response to Mr. Parker's comments. There's a section to the north of the Black Ridge main property. Originally, there was an extension, and 6 lots could have been constructed, single-family residential R1 lot coming off Sagecrest. We now open that estate area up and committed to no more than 6 access points to Sagecrest Road. The remainder will come to 93 or may come through us to balance the property, we don't know, but only 6 access points are limited to Sagecrest Road, none through an existing subdivision.
Mr. President, I have
Yes, sir.
a question. Mayor or Alan, do we have any intent yet on the 150 acres besides the parkland for use? Can you speak on the intent of that?
Dr. Middlebrooks, your question is the linear property along the banks of the Hoover, or the bulk of property where houses are being moved from up to green trails?
Right.
We don't have any specific intent, but we do view this as a linchpin toward getting an additional road through there that will take some pressure off of Morgan and State and Trace and 52. So there is a parkway concept that was referenced in very generic terms, because there's a lot of engineering that would have to take place in the comp plan, and this is a key piece of property. We won't be able to construct that additional access road without this piece. So Signature was willing to hear that, and we found a point of mutual benefit where if they're able to relocate these lots into green trails, it benefits them, and it also vacates this piece of property. Without that piece of property, we will never be able to complete the path that we envision for this additional road, which is part of traffic relief in that part of the city.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. President, I would just add to that if I may. That is the center, really the centerpiece of this plan is, I mean, in addition to the parks and donated land, is the additional area for a road. The roads aren't necessarily planned yet, but we know any of the options we look at are, we need this land to be able to do that. And so this comes straight out of the comprehensive planning process. You know, the layout of possible roads came about in the comprehensive plan, and the developer responded to that. The reason the houses are moving is to make room for that potential additional access road. And so this is a response to an early plan of how we can address the traffic and Trace Crossing. Would you? Yeah.
That's correct, Mr. Shaw, and I think it's important to note that should we desperately hope that road comes to fruition. We think we need it, and this is a critical piece of that puzzle. If for whatever reason in the future that were to not happen, there will be a few minor restrictions on the property that basically would prevent it from any kind of use that would disrupt the homes that are already in Black Ridge. But it would still be very usable public space and could be developed into public recreational space. So it's not, I mean, we want it to go toward this road project that Mr. Shaw references. That's probably the highest, best use of that particular parcel. But should that not be possible, we will still all benefit from this donation, and it will be dedicated public land. We would probably at that point move toward the institutional zoning class that I think you'll see on your next council. Does that help?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
We ended the public hearing. Can we do it after the motion?
It's part of the public hearing.
Oh, well, before. Yes, Mr. Schultz.
I have 3 questions. During the annexation of the property across from Shoal Creek that Signature Homes was going to build, one of the arguments for not increasing the number of students was the lot size. The houses were going to be so big, and historically the argument by Mr. Light at the time was that the bigger the houses, the fewer the students. Tonight, Mr. Smith, you said that this smaller lot size would result in fewer students because they couldn't have as large a family. So that kind of contradicts what Mr. Leiter was saying. We have to come up as I understand it, the price of the home directly impacts or gives an estimate on the number of students. So the houses that are being moved, are they going to be lower in price, therefore increase the number of students? Which brings me to my second question, is Mr. Johnson indicated that throughout this process, Dr. Murphy had been consulted, but it did not indicate whether Dr. Murphy had been consulted during this move. Have these homes, the move of these homes, has Dr. Murphy been consulted in that part? He did say that she was consulted in the Black Ridge part, but not in the move. My third question is, the donation, would that be impacted at all should this not be approved, should the move not be approved? Would the donation of the land still go through at that point, or would that prohibit that from happening because those homes would still be there? That's all the questions I have.
On the last one, I would think that would probably prohibit because of the layout of the dwellings prior. Dr. Murphy is aware of the total number of units. Only you could speak as to whether or not you've had conversations since those vote adjustment requests.
Yes, sir, I prefer to use the word informed, but she was absolutely informed of this transfer.
Mr. President, if I could address that real quick. During planning zoning meetings, I'm often in contact with the representative here, and we talk about that. I can say most of what is discussed, that we don't ever talk about the size, or they have a kind of a set number of students per house that they plan based on aggregate numbers and what they've studied, and that was part of their study that they did, I guess, about a year ago. So that's typically what the discussion is. It's not based on lot sizes or anything. It's kind of an aggregate number. That's what they use in their studies. But I can't count how many conversations we have during planning and zoning when we discuss these things. So.
Yes, sir. Additionally, Council, units are being transferred from a medium density area in Black Ridge. They comply with the same Article 12 requirement that we will comply with where they're transferred to in Fleming.
So I guess the only question left on the table for Mr. Schultz is, how many students are going to come from 155 versus Black Ridge?
I'd have to say the same number of students. That's how, my knowledge, the school board would calculate that.
Mr. Smith, this is probably a good time to throw something on the record, but we use the same divisor as the school system, and it is not based on square footage of the house. We have discovered, and I know Mr. Shaw has been very deeply involved in this, we've discovered through the comp planning process that there are probably several misnomers about where students are coming from in Hoover. This sounds a little antithetical to some people, but the reality is that the increase in our school system is coming from the churn of our existing housing market. And we now have the data to demonstrate that, and it'll actually be included in the comp plan. And it really does not come from new construction to the extent that people think. Oftentimes, new construction is cited as the sole reason for increase in our student population. Surely it's a contributing factor when new houses are built, but it is not the sole factor. We can look at Bluff Park. There's virtually no new construction in Bluff Park, a house here and a house there. Yet they're going to have to add a wing on the Bluff Park Elementary to accommodate the student load. That is the churn of the existing house market and the turnover of the demographics of that neighborhood. So I would really encourage everybody, and obviously you all will have it available to you, but I'd encourage the public to really study that information. It was eye-opening, and I think a little shocking. I won't speak for Mr. Shaw, but I think it shocked most of us on planning and zoning to see where the students are actually coming from. But specifically to this issue, we don't use a different divisor depending on the size or the capacity of the house. We will be coming in the budget with a request for a housing study, which is a very affordable way to figure out in more detail what's exactly happening in our population based on housing.
Yes, Mr. President. One thing on my mind tonight, and Chief Bentley, I actually would ask you to come up on this. The fire station in that area, the Black Ridge, Lake Wilburn, Trace Crossing, we've talked about a fire station being placed in that area for a while now. Could you give us an update, just a quick briefing on where we are?
Yes, sir, Mr. Green. As you are aware, last week, I think it's common knowledge, we're going through an
accreditation process. This accreditation process, part of what you participated in the other day was the standards of cover, community risk assessment, and our strategic planning. And we hope by October that we'll have a specific site selected for the fire station. We feel like it needs to be on the Stadium Trace Road or Parkway in the area of the amenities building up to the Met in that particular area. The reason we're waiting, we just want to make sure that all the data that we collect and everything that we look for in the future points to that location. And so that's kind of where we are with that. We feel like by October we'll have a specific site selected. Now in the meantime, we've had 3 meetings with Signature Homes on selecting the needs for our fire station, public safety center, and trying to get some rough diagrams and sketches so that when the fire station site is selected, we can move forward with that without delay.
And Chief, once we have that site selected, what's the estimated time to build the fire station?
It could be up to a year. I can't speak for Mr. Belcher, but he indicated to us that he could build the station within 12 months.
So theoretically, a year or so from this October, it's possible. That area is just growing, as we all know, leaps and bounds, and I'm very concerned about us getting fire protection, increased fire protection.
If you remember, we did some work on the Gun Club Road. That's an emergency access road for Engine 6 and Truck 11, which actually is 2.2 miles from Station 6 to the railroad crossing on the first bridge going into Black Ridge. So we've alleviated some stress there. They can use that road and use it frequently. So that's helped us in lieu of a temporary fire station. So that's working, and it's working well. And, I know that this probably is moving a little bit slower than, I know it's moving slower than I want, but I think that us collecting data and making sure that we're doing the right thing, instead of having to back up later and go, man, I wish we'd have done something different. So I feel confident in our methodology and how we're approaching this. If you can just bear with us till September, October-ish, till we get this comprehensive plan done through the fire department, that would help us. One of the things I'd like to mention is that if you look at the territory size of different stations throughout the city, for instance, Engine 1, their territory is extremely small. It's only 3.6 square miles. If you look at Station 6's territory, it's 14.7 square miles. So the territory geographically is quite significant compared to other territories throughout the city. A lot of that is not built on yet, but that's how large the territory is.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mayor, it's not like the old days when Chief Bradley and Jack Neal would get down with a compass and a city map and try to look for stations should be with. Any other comments? Yes, sir. Come down, give us your name and street number, street name.
Yeah, I won't take long. I teach science.
Name, please.
Stan Dord. I teach science at
Street
Memphis
name?
Middle School. I live in Pelham.
Street name?
At Haysbury Lake.
Thank you.
Haysbury Lake, thank you. First time here. I just want to say thank you for this proposed green space. I coach cross-country track and golf at Memphis Middle School. And I've had, in the last 8 years, I've gone from about 60 children running for me to approximately 110. This area that's already available for me to run on keeps my kids off the streets. I don't have anything to say about the houses or anything. I just want to say thank you for even looking at possibly making a park down on the Cabo River that connects me to the high school. Because my kids go to the high school, so the high school kids run back to Bumpus, and my kids run to Bumpus. It just keeps, between the two schools, it keeps 150, 160 kids off the road. Yes, it's busy, and then the mountain bike park that's been built, it's phenomenal because some kids come out of cross country, they don't even have a place to go. So now we've got a whole other sport, we've got a whole other venue that's been built by these guys. I just want to say thank you. I just want to put a feather in the cap for the guys that I know that are putting this together, so thank you.
Does your throat go a little dry every
It,
time?
first time here, I
You never
did,
know, talking about when Coach Hines is up against you.
that's one of my best friends, and so I wish he was here. But yes, so I get nervous in front of all this, especially when I'm not dealing with the houses. But thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, we ready to pull this public hearing to a close? All right, coming down. How are you, sir? Name and street name.
John Parker, 1699 of Parkland. I was here a couple of years ago talking about the traffic on Morgan Road and South Shades Crest going in the morning and back in the afternoon. I think it was 3 years ago. It was a parking lot in the morning and it was a parking lot on the way home. Not very friendly to quality of life. Who wants to leave your house at 6:30, 7 o'clock to drive your kid 5 or 6 miles to get to school on time, or especially in the last 13 years, the bus stop picking up these kids is getting earlier and earlier and earlier. Now we have 6 more lanes of traffic housing, cars, whatever, going into South Shades Crest. And then onto Morgan Road. Apparently nobody here really travels that road in the morning, do you? No. You? No. You driving on the way home? No. So let me paint a picture. From 150 back to South Shades Crest in the morning, down Morgan Road all the way to the intermediate school. That's traffic. It's a 1-lane road. And then you have all the veins coming into the main road. Now we're gonna put more cars on that mess.
Is it South Shades Crest or State Crest?
South Shades Crest and Morgan Road.
Okay.
All right.
That's
That's,
good.
you're gonna do it around Trace Crossings. Now you're gonna take a different route, put them on the Morgan Road, so you're gonna send them this way, just to send them back that way. I experienced about 4 months ago, there was a fender bender heading home on South Shades Crest towards Morgan Road. So when I got to 150 off of 459, it took an hour to travel 5.2 miles. It's pretty bad. Yeah, once. But when you add more traffic, your percentages of accidents or fender benders are going to go up. Forget it in the morning. When there is one, there's nowhere to put the cars. But then we're going to talk about, oh, but Shelby County is going to widen from South Shades Crest to 459. I've heard that for 13 years. I've gone down there, I've asked them, when are they going to do it? Well, one guy said it's going to be probably another 10 or 20 years because they have to move a railroad crossing railroad tracks. That doesn't happen overnight. So to say the traffic's going to go up Morgan Road to 459 to take off the pressure from South Shades Crest, it's not going to happen anytime soon. Maybe not even in my lifetime.
Can I ask one question? Tim, has the county already let contracts report these?
Open bids.
They've opened bids?
For what?
For the construction. So they're getting closer. I'd say your lifetime's a pretty good bet.
Widening.
Widening.
To widen that road? Morgan Road? I'll take you to dinner if I see that happen. I promise you. I'll take you to dinner. Your pick. And then an intersection right there with that new, whatever is going to be built. I know we closed that hearing part, but let's not talk about that. That's going to be a disaster. Again, I live there. I live out there. I travel it a lot, every day, 6 times a day, sometimes 10 times a day. Somebody's got to stand up to somebody and demand a better quality of life or figure out a better project or path for these cars and for these people. Putting a lot of people out there, you're going to impact the quality of life. I'm telling you, I just mentioned you don't drive it, you don't see it.
I don't drive it every day.
I would love for you to come to my house at 6 a.m. and let us
I've
drive it.
never driven it, but I have driven it, but it's not part of my everyday driving.
Right, I mean, not every day.
Parker, what would you say if, because I'm not hearing anything about the 459 interchange. How do you think that would affect driving conditions?
I think that's the best plan I've heard. Put everybody out off of 459. But what do we do? Is that, apparently that's almost impossible, given all the power lines and.
I wouldn't say it's impossible. Had Mayor Ivy not thrown the project away after the accomplishments of Mayor Patel, it probably would have been open by now. But
That is the absolute.
Mayor Cato have gone back. The Mayor and I and Mr. Rice have been up to Washington to visit with the Alabama delegation to see about funding. And so I truly believe it's going to happen. We're pushing to make it sooner rather than later.
That's the best option by far. Let's get the developers and get everybody to put all their money in one big pot and make that the viable option. I just want to bring to your attention the driving on, in the summertime, it's great. When school starts, driving on 280 is like a dream compared to what it's going to be like driving on South Chase Crest. I'm telling you. Somebody stand up and put your foot down and say, we've got to improve the quality of life. It's going to affect a lot of lives. I think I'm done. Thank you.
Anyone else before we close out the public hearing? You've already been down once. Was that this subject or a different one?
I was on that exchange that you brought. But it has to do with-
Have you spoken to this subject?
It has to do with traffic on Chase Crest.
Well, why don't you wait until the public comment section?
He lives on South Chase Crest, he knows. 4061.
No. Let's wait and let you talk again during the public comments period, okay? Somebody that hasn't spoken yet, that wishes to speak. Public comment period is open for anybody and everybody. Public hearing is now closed. Open for a motion.
President, I move to adopt ordinance number 19-2435.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Anything else from the council? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Roger Edwards,
Aye.
Mr. Bessie,
Aye.
Mr. Shell,
Aye.
Mr. Green,
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye. Next, we have another public hearing for ordinance number 19-2436. Mr. Evans, let's go ahead and start with
This ordinance approves the 15th Amendment to Trace Crossings Planning and Development as requested by SD Development Corporation, PR, Billborn LLC.
All right, Mr. Johnson, come up and talk about this.
Richard Johnson, representing Lake Wilbur Partners, 3545 Market Street. The essence of this 15th Amendment is to locate those 155 units that we just moved from Black Ridge, find them a new home. Additionally, it solidifies our commitment to improve mountain bike park, which I previously stated, each prepared receipt of, you, and 125 acres of improved park property along the Cabo River.
Thank you. We do have a public hearing. Anybody care to speak to this public hearing on this matter? Any questions from the council?
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
To clear up something from earlier that I don't know that we touched on, the children that are in the Green Trails subdivision, will they go to South Chase Crest Elementary?
Yes,
In
sir.
that feeder pattern?
Right now, I think they're.
Chase Crest, okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure about it.
The line's right in there and I wasn't either, I apologize.
Okay, that's fine. I was just curious which one they would go to.
questions from the council? Any from the audience? Separate topic. All right, public hearing is closed. Open for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to adopt ordinance number 19-2436.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Comments or questions from the council? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Sergeant Roberts?
Aye.
Mr. Rossi?
Aye.
Mr. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye. Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 19-2437. Mr. Evans.
Ordinance 19-2437 modifies chapter 7 of the municipal code of the city of Hoover, Alabama, that is entitled Fire Prevention and Protection. This modification is intended to replace certain provisions of the 2015 International Fire Code adopted with certain amendments by the city of Hoover on December 15, 2014.
Chief Bent.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I think we discussed this at length on Thursday night, but I was just here in case you had any other questions, any specifics that you'd like to address. If I can't answer, Fire Marshal Moore's here.
For those that are here, just identify the three different topics.
There are three articles that we would like to have changed from the 2015 adoption of the International Fire Code. First is basically, the current code states today that you can reduce, the required fire flow for a building can be reduced to 1,000 GPMs per minute. And then it also says that if the building's sprinkled, you can reduce that overall by 75%. The old code stated the minimum GPM fire flow would be 1,500 gallons per minute, which is what we're proposing, and that the overall percentage could not drop below 50% or below 1,500 total. So that's the first article. The second was dealing with the local alarm system that notifies the local tenants of, say for instance, a strip mall, that when water is flowing through the sprinkler system for whatever reason, that local alarm, such as a water gong, would notify the local patrons. A water gong is quite expensive to install, and if it's on one end of the facility, local patrons on the other side may or may not hear that. So we're just proposing that a horn be put in each occupancy. It's a very simple fix so that everyone is notified that water is flowing. And then the third article is dealing with the fire alarm system and specifically with the silence button. Typically when we respond to a fire alarm in an occupancy, we'll go to the annunciator panel to locate what's going on. Typically, if a fire alarm goes off, the occupant can press the silence button to stop the audible alarm. And under the current code, the audible alarm goes off and the visual or the strobe alarm goes off. Under the previous code, the audible alarm would be disengaged, but the strobe would continue to flash, which is what we propose to go back to, simply because we found that when people see the alarm system, someone press silence under the current code, the patrons see that the alarm system, it appears it's reset, then they want to re-enter the building. Or an occupant might hit silence, go back to their normal operating, and forget that the alarm is in an active mode. So it's three simple articles that we're asking to change back.
Any questions? Let's see. Public hearing.
I have to say one more.
Yes, sir.
Chief Bentley and Fire Marshal Moore, I really appreciate the information you've given us, especially the ones you put together. Because otherwise, I would not know what the world you were talking about, so it's great to have that information to be able to review and understand this process.
Chief Moore, you have anything you want to add? You stayed up late.
Yes, sir.
Stayed up late. Didn't know if you had anything you want to say. Anything else from the council? It's a public hearing. Anything from the audience? All right. Into the public hearing. Open for a motion.
Mr. President, I move for the approval of resolution number 6025.
How about an adoption?
adoption of ordinance number 19-2437. I was reading.
Second.
Motion and a second. Well, didn't want to adopt a capital. We've already had the legal part, we've had a public hearing. Any questions from the council, any from the audience? Seeing, hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Aye.
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 Aye. Next is ordinance 192438 with a public hearing. Sorry? I've got one that got slid this way. Okay, we're gonna sweep the streets. Resolution 602519, Mr. Evans.
Resolution 6025-19 is a resolution accepting a bid for street paving and sweeping services for the city of
Ben here tonight. Ben.
Sir.
Real quick to the point. Without using it.
Yes, sir, our city street sweeping services contract recently expired, so we solicited bids in accordance with state competitive bid laws. We had 2 bidders, and we're recommending award to the lowest bidder, who is our incumbent contractor, Sweeping Corporation of America, and happy to report that the bid pricing is 7.8% lower than the last time we did these services.
I think the savings and fuel costs have anything to do with that.
Probably so, yes, sir.
Any questions from the council? I've been used to these public hearings. Go ahead, sir.
Mr. President, I move for the approval of resolution number 6025-19.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions from the council? Any from the audience? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Now we're gonna have some first. Hydrant. On the hydrant? Yes, we moved it to consent. Yes, ma'am. The gentleman wanting it moved is not here tonight. Not that he had issues. Mr. Evans got a few first readings. You will.
ordinance number 19-2438 is an ordinance authorizing the transfer of real property of the city of Hoover for public purposes to Jefferson County. Ordinance 19-2439, an ordinance authorizing the lease of unneeded municipal property of the city of Hoover. Ordinance number 19-2440, an ordinance authorizing the lease of real property of the city of Hoover for public purposes to the Park and Recreation Board of the city of Hoover. Ordinance number 19-2441, an ordinance to establish chapter 6 buildings and buildings regulations entitled Restrictions on Short-Term Rental and Single-Family Residences, and to place restrictions on short-term rentals of single-family residences.
All right, Madam Clerk, if you could please see that items 25, 27, and 28 are posted on the city website. For those that like to read long, boring pieces of paper, they mean a lot. Next, we're gonna set public hearings for July 1st. No action is gonna be taken at this meeting. Resolution 602319, a resolution for the abatement of public nuisance due to weeds and/or grass. And item 30, resolution 602419, a resolution for the abatement of public nuisance due to weeds and/or grass. Comments and questions? Would you like to come back down, sir? This part of the meeting was made just for you.
Thank you. Marcus again, 461 South Shades. Commenting on Mr. Parker's comments about the traffic on South Shades. I've lived at that address since 1997, where it was on the road. Now, I can't get out my driveway in the morning. 2.2 miles from Highway 150, and I have to beg somebody to let me on the street coming from, Morgan Road area to get on South Shades Crest. I just wanted to make, like he was saying, y'all don't travel. If you've got to travel that thing in the morning to realize the traffic that is. And why I came here tonight was to make sure Riverwoods wasn't gonna build some kind of connector road. When you talk about 459 and the exit on 459, I don't see how, to me, that's gonna make traffic worse on South Shades Crest with everybody turning at that new Publix or at the new grocery store that they're going on building. Instead of going up Morgan Road to get on the interstate, it's gonna be a lot easier to get South Shades Crest than the new exit. So I don't know what the plans are for that, and it's above my pay grade. All I wanted to make sure y'all were aware of is that the traffic on South Shades Crest is horrendous.
Now, the anticipation is that it will take a lot of traffic off of Shades Crest, South Shades Crest, 150 intersection. There's a lot that we believe will get on the interstate. Hopefully some of those will go to exit 6 if they can get on 459 anyway. But we're trying to lighten some of that traffic going up that way and hopes that it goes up the system.
Well, I work at exit 6, so that's the crazy thing. I live at 4061. I'm about 2 miles from the office, and it takes me 30 minutes to get to exit 6 from my house in the morning. I can't go Morgan Road. I gotta go through Russell Woods subdivision, which is probably illegal, but I go through Russell Woods and come out on Parkwood Road, and it takes me 30 minutes on school mornings to get to work, 2 miles. So what I've envisioned, and again, I don't know, but to me, exit 6, once you open up an exit on South Shades Crest, exit 6 is gonna die, and I wouldn't wanna have a business at that exit with everybody that's gonna be coming down Shades Crest. Yes, it's gonna alleviate the traffic on 150 in Shades Crest, but it's gonna make it much, much worse towards Russell Woods back to Morgan Road. That's all.
How long would it take for you to go from your house going down Morgan Road to get to your first floor?
It takes, well, it's 30 minutes either way. That's why I go through the subdivision. Now, once they widen Morgan Road, it'll probably make it a lot easier.
Not to do with the landscape of the day, maybe.
Mr. President, if I could comment. I think this illustrates why, and we need to have shortly after, or maybe as we're finishing up the comp plan, I know we allocated the money for it, a traffic overview plan for that area. Because there's so many different things happening, so many positive things moving in a positive direction, but unless you see it all laid out, this is going here, this is going here, this is what the traffic engineers have said, this is what the traffic study said. Maybe we need more studies to illustrate, what's going on there, but there's a lot of things moving in a positive direction in that regard, but it's hard to see right now because things are kind of getting oriented for it. And it takes a long time. We're backfilling a lot of this. There's a lot of things that have just kind of existed, and now we're kind of having to play catch up a little bit. I really think we need to document our plan that highlights in more detail than the comprehensive plan where these are going, what this land means that has been donated, what the 4-lane means or 5-lane means, what the intersection would mean, and showing what the impacts on traffic are going to be. Because without that, we just have it's a lot of anecdotal discussion, which is not bad, but it doesn't paint the whole picture, I don't think. And so I hope we can get something like that pretty quick. I know the money's there, we just need to put it together. Thank you.
Anything else from the council tonight? No. Snuck around.
Another person, yes.
How are you?
Good, Mark Pinotti from Trace Crossings.
Yes, sir. Street name.
I live on Trace Crossings Trail in Hoover. I'm here really just to talk a little bit about what I just heard today, but also more importantly, a petition that was signed by the residents of our Willow Trace subdivision and some of Park Trace. I have copies of the letters that I can hand out to you gentlemen. guys a copy. I hand out to Mr. Mercado. Yep. And for the record, sign the petition, Gene, that one to you. And this petition, I can read the whole thing, or I can just abbreviate it quickly to you. It's the discussions that we've had over the last few months regarding the traffic problems, congestions, and some of the decisions that were made and going in proposed plans that were being discussed for rerouting traffic through subdivisions and other areas within the Trace Crossings area. I think what we just saw earlier today is what we're concerned about. You heard some gentlemen speak about the same thing, is we're building, we're building, we're building. I sat through several planning and zoning meetings, and almost every one of the meetings is all about, restructuring the current use of the property as opposed to planning future use and where we're going forward. And I know that's what the comprehensive plan is. Mike, what you just said is exactly what we need. Obviously, it's about 10 years too late, but it's also something that needs to be done very quickly. But we're building homes, we're adding more traffic, we're adding more congestion with no plan to date to solve the problem. We have ideas, we have some concepts, 5 years, 10 years from now, but nothing is in writing. This petition is the residents of Willow Trace subdivision, just about 95% of us, that say that we do not, and we are adamantly opposed and vehemently opposed to any kind of road going through our subdivision, which the Mayor Mercado and some of you have, not all of you, but some of the council members have said they are against that. Again, it takes enough votes to say that, and I haven't heard that coming from everybody yet. But I do appreciate the fact you're not going to build a road through the subdivision. That doesn't mean you're not going to build the road behind it to the next subdivision down the road, because that's still on the table. So we hear that you've actually got a game plan. We don't know what you're going to do. And we don't want to be blindsided. And I don't think you're going to do anything that you don't want to, but you're going to be forced to do something. This road congestion is getting worse, not better. And there is an immediate plan to fix it. The Shades Crest is going to fix some of it. It's not going to fix all the congestion you have on State and Trace Parkway. It's not going to fix the 150 traffic that backs up every November, December going into the holiday season. It's not going to fix all the bus traffic. It's not going to fix it. And Mr. Green, Councilman Green spoke about the need for something for emergency. Nothing's been discussed to fix that, yet we're adding more houses. We're building a track to race, to do, I guess, bike motocross or whatever it is for dirt bikes, and that brings traffic.
I believe it allows motorized.
Maybe not motorized, but it'll bring, BMX bikes or something like that, which is good. Shouldn't be a lot. All that's good. Parks are good, but so is just green space with no traffic. Okay? It's not about just building to build. There's other ways to get revenue in this city other than just build, build, build. Okay? There's other ways to get revenue when you look at all the other empty buildings in other areas around the city. I do this for a living, and there's a lot of things we can look at. You guys, I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate all the work hard work's going into it. Until there's a full comprehensive plan, we just want to make sure on the record, our subdivision is heard, that we will do everything we can as opposed to putting any kind of roads through and near us through our subdivision, which is one of the worst decisions I've ever heard come out of a planning and zoning council meeting. So, thank you.
Provide this to the clerk and ask that she add this.
Yes, that's why I gave it to you. I gave one to Mr. Mercado, Mayor Mercado, so he'll have one as well. So appreciate the time for just airing our grievances and making sure you know that we stand against anything coming through our subdivision. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? No? Yes, sir. Come on down. New opportunity. So it doesn't go against your previous.
My name is Paul Braswell, 1308 Gables Drive, Hoover, Alabama. I know that one of the big topics is always discussed in here, and I understand about the traffic. I live here, I've been living here for a long time. It's not the only road that's got traffic on it. If you think that 280 is any different than 150 or South Shades Crest, it's all busy, and we do need help on that. But I just want to ask this one thing. It's when Signature Homes is donating 158 acres to help build a road from 150 over to 52. Is that not going to help some? I mean, I'm just asking.
We gotta put other parcels with it.
Oh, I know, it's just a major piece of the puzzle. It's not the puzzle, it's a major
Well,
piece of the
and
puzzle.
I don't believe there was a commitment that that's gonna become a road yet.
Okay, but it is an option. Look, when everybody gets upset about this, coming through Willow Trace or coming through the Hoover River Estates or whatever, there is another option there that's not gonna come through any of those subdivisions. And one more thing, this gentleman back here, he
So
said
you
something
need to
about.
address the council.
Okay, well, it was mentioned that the road from 459 up to South Shades Crest is being built by Shelby County. That's not true. It's being built by Jefferson County. And he also said that's not gonna be built in his lifetime. From what I've read, 3 years, and they've already started it. So if you've got a 4 to 5 lane highway coming from 459 all the way up to South Shades Crest Road, that's got to help traffic.
And we're also in conversations, Mayor, you may want to follow this up, with Shelby County to see if we can take those improvements a little further out 52.
I've already talked to Shelby County. They said that when Jefferson County gets started on their part of 4 to 5 lane from 459 up to South Shades Crest, that they're gonna do their part from South Shades Crest into Helena. So if you've got a 4 to 5 lane highway from Helena all the way 4 to 59, that will help traffic. So I'm just saying, let's get that going, and also that proposed road that might happen with a donation from, Signature Homes. I think we can get a road going from 150 all the way to 52, and a 4 to 5 lane highway from Helena all the way to 459, that will help traffic. If you don't believe that, I'm sorry. That's my opinion.
I don't think that people don't believe, it's just, people have been told a lot for so long that just, a little cautious, I guess.
There's nothing wrong with being cautious, but you've got to make plans and you've got to make them happen. And look, they're happening right now. The gentleman who spoke earlier, he sounded like he didn't even think that road from 459 up to South Shades Crest was even gonna happen in his lifetime. I've already read it's gonna happen in 3 years. And it's just like Mike said, it's a process. We can't make it happen overnight. It's a process, but let's look at the plan and put the pieces together. So that in 4 or 5 years, we've got something that's happening.
That one gentleman, his, community participation, probably outweighs most council members as far what he gives to the community, so I'm not gonna fault him for his thoughts.
I'm not faulting anybody for their thoughts. I'm just saying that if your thoughts are not reality, that maybe you need to hear what really is gonna happen, and maybe you won't think in a fault-like way.
Thank you. Anybody else?